Everybody can see the screen. Everybody can see the screen on the Zoom.
Yes.
All righty. Does it still say Divine Constitution of Moorish America still?
Yes.
All right. So the Grand Sheikh and the chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Moorish America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of America. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7, in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on that Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but obey hereby. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted into 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love, and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father Allah. Islam. Brother Salim, did you want to go into
Islam?
chapter 1, Islam?
Islam. I'm a highest honors to Khalifa Society, highest honors to Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Praise be to Allah, highest honors to all the Muslims in every nation.
Islam.
I'm run through real quick. Chapter 1 of the Circle 7 Holy Quran, Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prayer by the noble prophet Jew Ali. By the guidance of his father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from the sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father God Allah.
Islam.
Time never was when man was not. If life for man at any time began, a time would come when it would end. The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. No finite mind can comprehend things infinite. All finite things are subject unto change. All finite things will cease to be because there was a time when they were not. The bodies and souls of men are finite things and they will change. Yea, from the finite point of view, the time will come when they will be no more. But man himself is not the body nor the soul. He is a spirit and a part of Allah. Creative fate gave to man, to spirit man, a soul that he might function on the plane of soul. Gave him a body of flesh that he might function on the plane of things made manifest. Why did creative fate give to spirit man a soul that he might function on the plane of soul? Why did creative fate give to soul a body of flesh that he might function on the plane of things that are made manifest? Hear now, ye cherubim, ye seraphim, ye angels and ye men. Hear now, O protoplast and earth and plant and beast. Hear now, ye creeping things of earth, ye fish that swim, ye birds that fly. Hear now, ye winds that blow, ye thunders and ye lightnings of the sky. Hear now, ye spirits of the fire, of water, earth, and air. Hear now, O everything that is, or was, or evermore will be. For wisdom speaks from out the highest plane of spirit life. Man is the thought of Allah. All thoughts of Allah are infinite. They are not measured up by time, for the things that are concerned with time begin and end. The thoughts of Allah are the everlasting of the past until the never-ending days to come. And so is man, the spirit man. But man, like every other thought of Allah, was but a seed that held within itself the potencies of Allah, just as the seed of any plant of earth holds deep within itself the attributes of every part of that special plant. So spirit man, as seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of Allah. Now seeds are perfect, yea, as perfect as the source from which they come, but they are not unfolded into life made manifest. The child is as perfect as the mother is. So man, the seed, must be deeply planted in the soil that he might grow, unfold, and does the bud unfold to show the flower. The human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah was foreordained to be Lord of the plane of soul and of the plane of things made manifest. So Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, threw forth his human seed into the soil of soul. It grew apace, and man became a living soul, and he became the Lord of all the kingdom of the soul. Hark, now let every creature hear, the plane of soul is but the ether of the spirit plane vibrating not so fast, and that the slower rhythm of this plane, the essence of life, are manifest. The perfumes and the odors, the true sensations and all of love manifest. And these soul attributes become a body beautiful. A multitude of lessons man must learn upon the plane of soul. And here he tarries many ages until his lessons are all learned. Upon the boundary of the plane of soul, the ether began to vibrate slower still, and then the essences took on a final garb. The perfumes and odors and the true sensations and all of the love were clothed in flesh. And man was clothed in, And man was clothed in flesh, pardon self. Perfected man must pass through all the ways of life. And so a carnal life was full manifest, a nature that sprang forth from fleshly things. Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. And so this carnal nature soon became a foe that man must fight, that he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. Let every living thing stand still and hear. Man is the Lord of all the plane of manifest, of protoplast, of mineral, of plant, of beast, but he gave up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self. But man will regain his lost estate, his heritage, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yea, he must suffer trials and temptations manifold. But let him know that the cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and the spirit of the mighty and the spirit of the Almighty, of the mighty Allah, who rule the solar stars, are the protectors and his guide, and they will lead to victory. Man will be fully saved, redeemed, perfected by the things he suffers on the plane of flesh and on the plane of soul. When man has conquered carnal things, his garb of flesh will then have served its purpose well and will fall. It will be no more. Then he will stand untrammeled on the plane of soul, where he must complete his victories. Unnumbered foes will stand before man upon the plane of soul. These he must overcome, yea, overcome them every one. Thus hope will ever be his beacon light. There is no failure for the human soul, for Allah is leading on and victory is sure. Man cannot die. The spirit man is one with Allah. And while Allah lives, man cannot die. When man has conquered every foe upon the plane of soul, the sea will have full opened out and will have unfolded into the holy breath. The garb of soul will then have served its purpose, and man will need it nevermore. It will pass and be no more, and man will then attain unto the blessedness of perfectness, pardon self, unto the blessedness of perfectness, one with Allah, Islam.
Wow.
Islam.
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 Any thoughts on that chapter?
That was deep. What book is that from?
That's the Circle 7 Holy Quran. That's chapter 1. That's the creation and fall of man. I just want to say real quick, just to wrap up my my thoughts on what I just read. Was it's incredible how from the prophet to Allah, we can wrap up our whole existence and for the most part, from beginning to end, the concept that we are not what we see, what we feel, what we think, and everything that we can physically go through. Those are just like tests and trials of a higher vibration of ourselves, which is the soul, the spirit, the breath. We are just like a test trial going through this Merkaba, this spaceship of a body, and people take so many things seriously, sad, mad. When you read chapter 1 breaks down the whole concept of self-love mastering yourself and mastering your fate. Like I say, creative fate. Your what's your purpose? Like they said, a purpose-driven life. This tells each and every Muslim their purpose to conquer the obstacles that life has given you. Like somebody told me life is 90% what was given, 10% what you choose. So it's like we already know we're supposed to conquer whatever us in this body, this temple is, has brought to us in our whole existence of life. Man, I just wanted to say that, like, I self-love master is the creation and the fall of man. It's telling you exactly how and why we're made, the concept of the breath and the body and everything joining, and what we're supposed to do through this life, man. But that's all, man. It's an incredible chapter, Islam.
Wow. All right, so I'm gonna go into the astrology piece, and we're continuing from esoteric astrology, and I'm gonna pull up the definition of esoteric before we move on. Can everybody see the screen at etymology dictionary?
Yes.
Okay. So esoteric, secret, intended to be communicated only through the initiated. Anybody that read the Kabbalion, you said the 3 initiates are one ready to receive. And it's from the 1650s, from Latinized form of Greek, esoterikos, belonging to an inner circle. Lucian, and we know Lucian, we went through a couple weeks ago, just mean the light, right? And so we're talking about inner light, from the esotero, more within. All right. So we're dealing with information that only appears to be a secret because most people are into a cardinal plane, right? But people that are seeking to ascend into, now the circle becomes smaller, right? So it's only a chosen few that are ready to receive, right? So therefore, esoteric. Just wanted to go into that because this book is called Esoteric Astrology, right? Just in case nobody knew what esoteric meant, right? All right, chapter 2, dealing with occult nature of astrology. Aryan philosophy and Hindu astrology are intimately connected. Now, before I go on, I want to break down the word Aryan for ones that may think of Aryan as blonde hair, blue eye, etc. Right? So let's go back to the etymology dictionary of Aryan, right? So we're dealing with Aryan, 1600, as a term in classical history from the Latin Arianus, Arenia, from the Greek area or Aria, names applied in classical times to the eastern part of ancient Persia. Keep that in mind, ancient Persia, and to all its inhabitants. Ancient Persians used the name in reference to themselves, an Old Persian or Aria, hence Iran. So now we're going to Iran. So Iran is Aryan. Aryan and Iran is the same word. Ultimately, from the Sanskrit, which is an ancient language, English is modern, Sanskrit, of course, Latin, Arabic are ancient languages, area, right? Compatriot, and in later language, noble. So essentially in Sanskrit, Aryan just means noble, right? Of a good family. So Aryan means noble. Aryan is also applied to a people of ancient Persia, right? So now let's go to the ancient Iranians, right? So let's go to the ancient people of Persia, the ancient people of Iran. Can everybody see the screen? The pictures of these three brothers?
Yep.
I can see that. So these, when you talk about Aryan, this is what we're dealing with. Don't let nobody fool you thinking it's a blonde hair, blue eyed people. We're the Aryans. Right? So just wanted to make that clear before I
Everything you hear in race, culture, all sides of it, we all of it, Moors.
right? So chapter 2, occult nature of astrology. Aryan philosophy, which we just covered, so now we know what Aryan philosophy is, and Hindu astrology are intimately connected. The latter provides an important clue to the esoteric side of the former. It is, however, extremely difficult to pierce the veil of esotericism. Only the adepts have the true and complete key to such knowledge. What we may try to do is to collect fragments of occultism to see whether some meaningful conclusions can be drawn in this direction. If this endeavor or attempt fails, this line of inquiry may be abandoned, and astrology may continue to be considered merely a study dealing with mundane subjects devoid of any hidden esoteric meaning. But in drawing our conclusions, we must be aware of our limitations. Esoteric knowledge is given only to those who are deserving and who have proved themselves so by their life and conduct, ready to receive, right? Therefore, our effort in this direction is bound to be only sketchy. However, if on this line of inquiry we find even a faint glimpse of such a possibility, we should pursue this aspect of the subject a little more vigorously. Hindu astrology provides a radical view on life. It reveals a much deeper aspect of the same. Esoteric astrology sheds encouraging light on the sorrowful path of the earthly existence. It helps the individual to face his trials and tribulations with courage and dispassion. Esoteric astrology shows the transient as a reflection of the permanent, the particular as an integral part of the total, and the individual growth as a part of the universal plan of progress and development. The eternal is miniaturized in every decaying form. That is why Kala Purusha, the cosmic manifested deity, and before, let me stop here so we can comprehend what Kala Purusha is. We're dealing with Hindu realignment. So Kala Purusha, Kala Purusha. Purusha is the universal principle that is eternal, indestructible, without form, and all pervasive. It is Purusha in the form of nature's laws and principles that operate in the background to regulate, guide, direct, change, evolution, cause, and effect. So now we know when we're dealing with the Hindu term Purusha, this is what we're dealing with. All right, so let's go back to that. So that is why Kala Purusha, the cosmic manifested deity, the understanding of whose inner nature is essential For every astrological prediction is considered in a relationship with every physical or terrestrial phenomenon for any successful prediction. The triple process, right? The triple process of manifestation. And we know in Gods and Earth circles, right? It's called triple stage darkness, right? Or NOI, Nation of Islam circles, triple stage darkness. Now, we know that's just 3 trimesters in the womb for the Moor. The Moor knows exactly, that's the bottom line, right? It ain't nothing spooky. All right. So the triple process of manifestation, that is generation, preservation, and destruction. Anybody that's got some lessons from C. Freeman L, you see he gets into that. He used the acronym GOD, right? Generator, operator, destroyer. It's the same principles, right? Once your head's on a swivel, anybody you listen to, you can draw it back to the source if you're studying seriously, right? All right, so Brahma, Vishnu, and Manisha is another form of dealing with generation, preservation, and destruction, symbolized by Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, is an expression of Kala Parasha, who is eternal, ultimate. Henry Bergson has rightly indicated that the three dimensions of the temporal existence, namely past, present, and future, can be comprehended as contained in a single moment, right? Let's be present in the moment, right? Don't be stressing on the past or worrying about the future. But you can build and plot and plan, but be present in the moment, right? Astrologically speaking, that single point is Kala Parasha, right? In that case, the cosmic principle of evolution would be neither development nor unfoldment nor progress, but only a great illusion. Approaching this way, astrology is merely a window through which the great cosmic drama in all its splendor and variety can be perceived. Astrology must reveal some aspect of this mysterious drama. If yoga, at one with the ultimate, gives an insight into this perception, astrology must also be helpful for it. Whatever is originally given out to the common man does not reveal much of the inner nature of astrology. It is said that the sweet pulp of the orange inside the skin and the jewels are always inside the box. So is the mysterious astrology concealed under its outer and exoteric form. Now, exoteric means outer. Esoteric, like we just read, means within, right? And for a select few that are ready to receive. Exoteric is outer. But without the necessary preparation and discipline, the esoteric knowledge, yielding enormous control over the forces of nature, might do more harm than good. Therefore, the adepts have concealed the inner knowledge behind the skin of the orange or under the lid of the jewel box, so that without at first obtaining the true key to the blinds, the knowledge and therefore the power flowing from it could not be acquired, right? So you got to be at a certain level within to even perceive information or tap in to beams that you can't see, right? Even then, an effort may be made in this direction to get a glimpse of the sublime. It might give us a new philosophy of life and acquaint us with some hidden laws of nature and life surrounding us. One of the fundamental principles of esoteric philosophy is that the physical forces in nature can be treated as the external counterparts of the hidden occult forces. The two are interconnected. By following one of its logical conclusions, one might arrive at an understanding of some fascinating laws. This is because every physical particle corresponds and depends on its higher nomenon, the being, to whose essence it belongs. As above, so below is the rule in occultism. The two poles are interconnected by the involuntary or evolutionary process of manifestation. And that's what the brother was talking about in the Quran. As man unfolds, as God unfolds, the evolutionary process of manifestation. The spiritual is said to evolve from the divine, the psychomental from the spiritual, the tainted from its lower plane by the astral, the whole, the inanimate and seemingly inanimate in nature evolving on parallel lines. Thus, there is nothing in nature which cannot be correlated and transmuted to the ultimate. This process of manifestation, depicting on the interrelationships at different planes, has been a subject matter of scriptural mythologies. The ancient symbols of gods and demons and their various attributes, modes of expressions, and infinities indicate how the ultimate is manifested on the physical plane while maintaining the ever-abiding thread with it. It also suggests how the physical individual, by following the thread, can regain his divine nature, the ultimate essence of his being. So the divine nature is the ultimate essence of every human, right? That's every human wants to strive to be that if their head is on straight and they're not intentionally trying to do something else. This aspect of divine wisdom can be easily comprehended by following the hints and fragments found in esoteric astrology. Religion is often said to be concerned with the relationship between Atma, dealing with the soul, and Jiva, the living being or ego. But this relationship is not alien to astrology. The famous Russian occultist, Madame H.P. Blavatsky, once stated that the descent and rescent of the monad or soul cannot be disconnected from the zodiacal signs. And it looks more natural in the sense of the fitness of things to believe in a mysterious sympathy between the metaphysical soul and the bright constellation and the influence of the latter on the former, than in the absurd notion that the creators of heavens and earth have placed in heavens the types of 12 vicious jewels. She further stated that whenever 12 are mentioned, they are invariably the 12 signs of the zodiac. The Aryan religion, being much more ancient than the biblical scripture, right? The Aryan religion being much more much more ancient than the biblical scripture. So I just showed a picture of these ancient Aryans, right? So the Moorish culture was before the Bible. All right.
Islam Mafi, could you send Quasimodo an invite?
Okay, can somebody else do it? I'm trying to do the lesson. If somebody can get his email and just tell him the meeting ID and etc. All right. So she further stated that whenever 12 are mentioned, there are invariably 12 signs of the zodiac, the Aryan religion being much more ancient than the biblical scripture. The symbols and the mythologies of the Hindus have much more occult hints and suggestions than in the later. This is specifically so because the Aryans did not consider material affluence to be the goal or the end of the living. And as such, astrology, which was an essential part of the divine knowledge, right, in Hindu Vedanga, to be learnt and mastery attained before venturing into the exploration of the unknown, could not be concerned merely with predictions regarding the birth of a baby, material happiness, service promotions, foreign travels with plenty of money, or the death of an individual. Astrology, as indicated by Madame Blavatsky, must give a clue to the descent and the rescent of the monad or soul to its fatherland. Many eminent persons have already suggested the possibility of an esoteric side of astrology. In this connection, mention may be made of Alan Leo, the writer of the esoteric astrology, T. Sabaro, whose thought-provoking essay on the 12 signs of the zodiac is revealing, and of Professor Carl G. Jung, who had been endeavoring to bring about a synthesis between psychomental conditions of the individual, alchemy, which turned lead into gold, and astrology, which links the individual to his godfather. In his book entitled Psychology and Alchemy, much of the esoteric side of astrology can be found. Professor Jung has indicated the significance of various planets in the alchemical literature to show their deep psychological import. In one of the illustrations depicting the process of alchemical transformation, which Professor Jung has reported from the 18th century manuscript, the caption reads, the mystic vessel where the two natures unite, right? That sounds like the Quran, right? The two natures, we're dealing with higher and lower self in the Moorish paradigm. So the two natures unite, soul and lunar, to produce the Phileus, Hermaphroditus, Hermes, Psychopompos, flanked by the 6 gods of the planets. In this illustration, sun are male and the moon female, standing separately at the lowest level, are next shown together in a vessel with the serpents of the caduceus having their heads pointed in opposite directions. On the same level, Jupiter and Venus are shown discharging some functions of their own. Subsequently, the duality of male and female is transformed into a single kingly figure of the individual with caduceus, with the serpents with intertwined heads in his hands, while Saturn and Mars have been operating on that level. For any student of Hindu yogic literature, it is obvious, though there may be many other inner hidden meanings for the same, that the serpents have represented above signify the unactivized Kundalini power in Ida and Pingala. And we know from the book that we read from Brother Abdullah, those are the 2 veins that are inside the Kundalini, one dealing with white substance and one having a yellow substance, right? And therefore we got the land of milk and honey, right? Which then properly ordinates, that is, the heads of the serpents unite, which transform the human individual into a divine being. It is said that Ramakrishna, which most of us know as Krishna, Paramhamsa, had this synthesis established when even blood came to his mouth. But after his attainment, his entire life was completely changed. In this process, the psychological transformation takes place, and as Patanjali has stated, the essence of the yogic practices lies in the control of the modifications of the consciousness of the mind, which is really a psychological process of transmutation. Mind in astrology is represented by Mercury. Arrangement of moon against sun, Jupiter versus Venus, and Mars against Saturn clearly indicates that the pathway through the earth life leads through many conflicts and trials, resulting from the interplay of opposing forces as represented by these planets. But he who does not to conquer them can expect no triumph. And that goes back to the intro dealing with, you can have these planetary situations. Everybody got their own, chart that they can get to find out what they made of, but that's not the end of the story. You still have the divine faculty that can navigate that. The way to conquer these planets, or the process of acquiring victory over the earthly conflicts, is through the control of the mind and by attaining balance and dispassion. The importance of Mercury or consciousness in this process is colossal. Professor Jung has also stated that Hermes or Mercury or Mercurius possessed a double nature. Has possessed a double nature. As the planet Mercury, he is the nearest to the sun. Hence, he is permanently related to gold, the Atma, the ultimate. But as Quicksilver, Kamas Manas, he dissolves the gold and extinguishes its sun-like brilliance. Mercury has indeed been considered a prince, neutral, and owner of dual signs, namely Gemini and Virgo, which have profound significance. The correspondence between yoga or the science of psycho-mental transmutation, alchemy, and astrology is in reality very close. It has been rightly stated that astrology and alchemy are equally the souls of the two modern sciences called astronomy and chemistry. Once again, it has been rightly stated that astrology and alchemy are equally the souls of the two modern sciences called astronomy and chemistry. As long as this truth is not recognized, astronomy and chemistry will continue to run a vicious circle and will produce nothing beyond material or nothing beyond material. The occult nature of astrology is also suggested by the artistic approach to divine manifestation. In his masterpiece of a book, namely The Art Alphabet and its relation to cosmic principles, W. Roboslawski has suggested that the centrifugal tendencies inherent in the basic cosmic urges, right? Though that's all our planets are, or when we study our chart, that just lets us know our urges, right? Basic cosmic urges, latent in every particle under the impact of 12 zodiacs, are moduled in the various external figures. This work is a pioneering one in synthesizing the basic cosmic urges with other rhythmic expressions in the universe and correlating the same with astrological influences. From this, one can conclude that there are many avenues in which the influence of astrology has not yet been fully explored. If that is done, the scope of astrological studies will still further expand. These should indicate that the evolution of the universe and the transmutation of psycho-mental consciousness of the individual are ultimately connected with astrology or astrological influences. But at present, we wish to draw attention to another aspect of the subject. In the Hindu mythology, the Puranas and other scriptures are full of astrological details. So Hindu culture, astrological. Why a particular hero falls down in the battleground under certain constellation cannot be brushed aside lightly. Such instances have depths of meaning, and it is not merely that the death under a particular star is auspicious or inauspicious. Even the images of different deities given in scriptures are not the figment of one's imagination. They are symbolic representations of very complex esoteric teachings. So that goes back to the Bible. All these deities in the Bible are symbolic, typically for planets, represent planets and things of that nature. For example, let us take the symbology of the Hindu god Mahadeva. The Lord Shiva has 7 serpents moving around the different part of his body. The moon is on his head, from which the holy waters of the Ganges have been flowing. He rides on a bull, and so on. The serpent has been the symbol of wisdom, and the bull, Taurus, the symbol of physical and terrestrial generation. The moon is said to be exalted in Taurus. No symbol, the sun included, has been more complex in its manifold meaning than the lunar symbol. In secret doctrine, it has been stated that the lunar magnetism generates life, preserves, and destroys. So the GOD, generator, operator, destroyer, the moon is in play. Psychically as well as physically. And if astronomically the moon is one of the 7 planets of the ancient world, in theogony, she is one of the regents thereof, which Christians now, as much as with pagans, the former referring her under the name of one of the archangels, it really is archangels, but archangels, and the latter under that of one of their gods. It is therefore no surprise that even astrological predictions, so much significance is attached to the position of the moon for almost every type of consideration. Evidently, when the great creative force is symbolized by the flow of the holy river Ganga, the moon should naturally be associated with the cosmic influence flowing under the zodiac Taurus and Cancer. Apart from the fact that Cancer is a watery sign and water represents life force, there are other implications of this sign. This is a sign which marks the stage of manifestation. when the different dimensions of creation were established. When the four-headed Brahma began its creation, when the lower quaternary of the physical human being was ready for being ensouled. In this way, it is suggested that the association of the moon with different aspects of manifestation and its association with Bull and the Gagna, while remaining at the crest of the Lord's Mahadeva, is undeniable, an astrological allegory as well. In this way, when astrology is approached as an occult science, it would reveal a panoramic vista of hidden vision. The depth of insight would depend upon the spiritual enlightenment of the individual. So once again, once you're ready to receive, that's when you can get deeper. Other than that, it's going to go over your head. The planets are the hands pointing out on the dial of our solar system, the hours of certain periodical events. Pythagoras considered the number 12 as very sacred. This duodecary number is perfect, he said. Further, it is indicated that 12 is that of the signs of the zodiacs, which the sun visits in 12 months. And it is to honor that number that Moses divided his nation into 12 tribes, established the 12 cakes of the shewbread, and placed 12 precious stones upon the breastplate of the pontiffs. The sidereal influence has the physical and psychological impact which exoteric, we're dealing outside now, astrology deals with. But it also reveals the high spiritual, intellectual, and moral influences. The 7 planets of Hindu astrology, including Ra and Ketu, which have special significance of their own, but are not considered as planets, generate their own magnetism and carry out their special functions entrusted to them by the occult hierarchy. The order of the planets in exoteric practice is that divined by their ego or geocentric radii, or the distance of their several orbits from the Earth as a center. And that's where you get the term radius and diameter. If anybody took math, geometry, or know pi to find out the circumference of a circle, right? It's an equation. It's a certain equation to find the radius of a circle, and it's a certain equation to find the diameter of a circle. This is 9th grade math, basic arithmetic, right? Three of these symbolize the celestial triad of supreme power in the physical manifested universe, or Brahma, Vishnu, and Mashiach, which we just covered. It just means, right? Generator, operator, destroyer, right? God. While 4 of them represented the terrestrial quaternary ruling over all natural and physical revolutions of the seasons, quarter of the days, pointers on the compass, and elements, etc. From this, the everlasting influence of the first 3 planets can very well be explained. For any lasting phenomenon, the special favor of these planets are the extreme significance, or of extreme significance. The conjunction of Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars is of special importance for solar evolution, whereas guys, I just let somebody in, lost my place. The conjunction of Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars is of special importance for solar evolution, whereas for the seasonal fluctuations, the transient impression and the changeableness of the individuals will be reflected by the latter 4 planets. The inner man consists of 7 principles. The inner man consists of 7 principles, consisting of a higher triad and a lower quaternary. Different principles of the man are guided and controlled by these 7 planets. This shows that the influence and the connection of the planets with different individuals do not end with only one birth, but they are essential parts of the individual's inner being. Astrology is a way of understanding the hidden laws of nature. It reveals how the occult hierarchy has been carried out the divine plane of cosmic manifestation. It reveals the rhythmic and cyclic principles latent in nature, or latent just means lying dormant. It's not active yet. Nothing, no catalyst has came and activated what's dormant yet, right? It shows how the soul of the man has descended in the pit of matter and how the assistance of planetary forces he can rescind to his divine home. It shows the path of return to the prodigal son. For those who desire to develop yogic powers, astrological knowledge is of immense help and importance. And above all, astrology reveals a new aspect of one's scriptural depths in ancient mythologies. The ancient mysteries are better comprehended with the aid of astrology, which is indeed a deep ocean from which everyone fetches pearls, according to one's capacity and understanding. Astrology, as Saint Justine has stated, is not for the vulgar, but for the distinguished and select men who become initiated, right? Back to the Kabbalion, initiated, you ready to receive, right? In the secrecy of the temples and in other wisdom of every kind of secret sciences. So Islam, to brother Jerry Bay, brother Blaze Lamam, Islam, who else came up in here? Sharif Gamble Bay, Islam, brother Bennett Bay, Islam. I'm gonna do, before we do some analysis on this, I'm gonna cover what I talked about dealing with Aryan, just for people that were not here. So once again, for the people that came late, when we're dealing with Aryan philosophy, we broke down what Aryan means. So Aryan, from the 1600s as a term in classical history, from the Latin arena from the Greek area, names applied in classical times to the eastern part of the ancient Persia and to its inhabitants. So keep in mind that who the ancient Persians are. I'm gonna show you a picture in a minute. Ancient Persians used the name in reference to themselves, hence Iran. So once again, when you say Iran, that's the modern name for the Aryans, right? Ultimately, from Sanskrit, Arya, compatriot in later language to mean noble. So in Sanskrit, Aryan means noble, and we know Sanskrit is older than English. So now let's take a look at the ancient Persian people. Since we know Aryan, we just read the definition. These are the ancient Persian people. These are the ancient Iranians. So Aryan has nothing to do with blue-eyed, blonde hair. And furthermore, I didn't get a chance to go through this in the definition. When you go down further, it says in 1920, Aryan became to be used in Nazi ideology to mean a member of the Caucasian race. That's 1920, that's modern. That's Nazi ideology. It has nothing to do with what the word really means, right? So period, point blank, we're the Aryans, right? So I just wanted to cover that. Any questions on esoteric astrology? Anything that anybody wanted to comment on dealing with that? Was this information new to anybody?
I got something to say. So you mean to tell me, the Aryan you just showed us, the dark-skinned people just now. So basically, y'all call white people Albion, right?
Right.
So that when they would say Aryan Brotherhood, they was talking about them.
No, the Aryan Brotherhood would be something new that is dealing with, like we just read, a new Nazi
Okay.
ideology of blonde hair, blue eyed people. That's the Aryan Brotherhood.
Okay.
But Aryan, just the
Okay.
word by itself, it is dealing with the ancient Persians, which we know are the ancient Mauryan dynasty, because Persia covered, what's now called Iran, all the way to Indonesia, with Pakistan and Hindustan in the middle. All that area was referred to as the Mauryan dynasty. And you just saw the 3 pictures of the Moors. So, we want to be sound in this information because, like I say, it's just information for our tool belt. Because once again, we the nobles, right? Because Aryan means noble. So we're the Aryans. We're the Aryans, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we want to get this information to the common man and woman that does not know this information and they're wrapped up in connotative things. We want to unwrap that for them. You know what I mean?
Okay. Gotcha.
Any other questions or
Islam novel.
Islam?
When I was studying a while back, I came across something. It's kind of vague, but it was basically saying to the extent where Aryan was also a melanated Moor. I don't know if he's from Russia or Europe, but maybe he was a saint, or I don't know if he was one of the Moorish popes or something like that. But they was basically saying the same thing as this, to the extent where Aryan is really a more in his philosophy of things. And I don't know, I think they killed him or something, but then they start using the Aryan philosophies or something that end up, being for the, the Albions or something. But I also heard that the Aryan name came from like a Moorish ruler or Moorish philosopher or something like that. But it has something to do with him being a Moorish melanated man in one of those places, maybe Europe, Russia, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you know anything about that.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, that's
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good observation. The connection. You know what I mean? Oh, Quasicodo, Islam.
Islam. Peace
But
to all.
it's all Islam.
Islam novel.
Islam noble.
Islam.
Um,
Islam.
you got something up?
Hey,
Islam
I
Morris.
low key. Yes, sir. I was trying to see, man. What was that? What was that? What you was reading earlier, Salim? What was that book?
Islam novel. That was actually the Circle 7 Holy Quran. That was chapter 1 of the Circle 7 Holy Quran. The creation and fall of man.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you.
Islam. And the second book was called Esoteric Astrology.
Word. I definitely got to throw them in the catalog, man. In the library.
Mm-hmm. Islam. Any other thoughts on what we discussed thus far? Comments? Was it insightful? Anything?
Very insightful.
You got
I
something?
I missed some of it, but I got the gist of the end of it, and it kind of makes sense. The Aryans kind of sound like an etymological break off of Sumerian, and you said they come from Persia, and that's all the same landmass on that side in the east.
Mm-hmm. See, that would be considered esoteric. How that divinely came to you based on other things you may have studied. That's an example of what esoteric is. It just comes to you like that, right? Islam.
Islam.
All right. I'll do one more round for thoughts on this topic, and then we'll transition to Empress Shuja's dissertation. More tactical. All right, looks like you got the floor, Empress, whenever you're ready.
Islam.
Wow.
Excuse me. Um, what I understood from the book is that it's a book on how to display competence when articulating your position to law enforcement, and that we are misclassified in the United States Census Bureau as Black, Negro, Colored, Hispanic, Latino, Indian, etc., which consists of the North, Central, and South America, including the islands, due to social engineering that kept the Aboriginal people docile and into believing they were slaves from off of boats from Africa and believing they were killed off by smallpox. Also with research, you'll find that this is not true. One slave or Slav is short for Slavic. It's an European nationality and does not mean a state of servitude. Two, during the so-called slave trade, Europeans were held captive and ransomed by the Moorish people, which are the same ones that were dumbed down into believing they were Black, etc. Let's see, almost lost my place. Oh yeah, right here. And other European colonists. Then it goes into different parts out of certain books talking about slaves being so-called white. Then the book goes into talking about the 13 colonies and how they contain European Slavs and their slaves that were considered, I almost said thugs, thieves, vagabonds, scum, but they were under the status of European subjects and jurisdiction of whomever was king or queen at the time. The Europeans rebelled, which caused the Boston Tea Party, and tried to blame the Moors, which caused the Intolerable Acts of 1774, but got punished for their actions and owed restitution to the East India Company for destroying their product. Then this led to the formation of the First Continental Congress, second, the Declaration of Independence, and the Articles of Confederation, where the 13 colonies decided to form a union against each other, which is the United States. But they were not Americans, they were Europeans. They had no protection and were considered refugees on foreign soil because they were no longer part of a recognized nation. So because of this, they entered into a treaty with the Moors to receive sanction to remain in America. The treaty is called the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1786 and 87. Signed between Morocco and the US, basically speaking on how things should be handled if any dispute between Moors and the US citizens. Then George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco, Muhammad Ibn, I don't know how to pronounce that, Abdullah in 1789. One, George Washington is calling him Your Majesty because he's a foreigner to America and he was grateful for the treaty. Two, George Washington is apologizing for missing tribute payment to the Moroccan government. Three, George Washington gives a draft of the Constitution to the Sultan for approval. And four, George Washington gave a statement to the Sultan pleading permission to reside and engage in commerce in the Americas without being destroyed. Excuse me. All this makes it clear that we've been socially engineered into believing that the Moors were brought to America as slaves from boats of Africa. and misclassified as Black, Negro, Hispanic, Indian, etc., and that the Europeans, in fact, were the slaves and inferior to the Moors and paying tribute to remain on El Moroccan soil, which is American. Now this is known, we then can focus on how, to use the laws in an organized fashion, excuse me. Then we go into the Department of Counselor Notification and Access Manual, which speaks of means of dealing with foreign nationals, anyone operating in the national capacity. And one section, it outlines your right to call, your right to call your counselor officer if there's an encounter with a police officer and you're not sharp on the laws pertaining to the nationality of your people. The counselor officer is the elected official in the Moorish temple / state politics, and they should be competent in jurisdiction. Not jurisdiction, jurisprudence. Yeah, and should be able to eloquently express their position. And it's also an option to have a counselor officer. So we need to become more confident, not confident, competent, which is kind of the same thing, in law. The manual directs all law enforcement to Article 6 in the U.S. Constitution, where they all take an oath to uphold the entire Constitution. And it also directs them to the section of the Article 6 of the Constitution where it speaks on treaties or the law of the land. It's important because it lays foundation for letting it be known that Moors are not U.S. citizens. Moors are a separate nation of people, and it spells out how things are supposed to be handled when disputes arise between Moors and U.S. citizens. And then it goes into the manual instructions to the table of contents, more detailed instructions and frequently asked questions. Then the supremacy clause, AKA Article 6, states that any states in any state in the contrary of the Constitution are notwithstanding, which means they are not law and do not matter. Article 4, Section 1 in the Constitution states, full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, meaning Moorish Americans are Aboriginal and indigenous to North, South, and Central America, including the islands. And this lays the foundation that we, the Moors, are the original inhabitants of the America. Let's see. And this also can be used against them. Okay, and then it says here, Article 1, Section 2 in the Inter-American Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous Peoples can be used to enforce your national card, which cannot be ran through in the computer of the police car. Article 10 of Section 2 means no foreigner can make an indigenous person join or belong to an association, which would be example of a DMV. Department of Justice Criminal Resource Manual 1508, especially mentioned identification. The nationality card is the most superior form identification. It states that the driver's license and birth certificates are not meant to be used as identification, but has been commonly accepted as a national ID card, mainly because the majority of the people do not operate in their natural capacity and are in a denationalized state. So basically, in conclusion, we need to stop saying we Black, because Black is not a nationality, a skin tone, nor an identity, but a legal status at its lowest form. Black is not in the Constitution. You do not have sovereignty if you do not have a birthright. Sovereignty does not stand on its own. Police are not authority, they are policy enforcers. We are not 14th Amendment citizens, I'm sorry. And oh, I also put right here, this is why we don't get reparations, because Black is not a nationality. And that's it. That's what I got.
Islam. Islam. Good.
Islam.
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 I just want to say there's two parts just for clarification. Rights of indigenous people, Article 1, Section 2 is dealing with ID. And we're using House resolutions to support the fact that we're indigenous. All the House resolutions that say we are indigenous, Texas, Chicago, Georgia, etc. And Article 10 of the rights of indigenous people says no forced assimilation. Just want to put those things up. But good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Islam.
Just soak it in.
Islam. Good job. Good job, Empress. I had to say it myself too, man. You do your thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody got any thoughts on that? Questions on that?
Islam, brother, I do have a question, sir.
Islam.
I would like to know, me, myself, I'm highly interested into proclaiming my nationality. And I think I've asked you this before, but I don't have a concrete remembrance. What can I do to start that process, or how should I know that I'm ready to commence that process in nationalizing? Or is there certain things that I personally need to study, or do those same people sort of like governors who can help us proclaim our nationality?
So
what would be my step in doing so?
yes, essentially, that's your bloodline. So it's just you declaring in your heart, knowing it to be true that that's your nationality for one. But as far as paperwork, I would recommend, just based on where you're at. Do you have the book Morris Tactical? You got that one?
Oh yeah. I got the book. I read it.
Okay. All right. So nationality paperwork, I always refer people to RV Bay. Just to, it's like a template basically already laid out, and all you need to do is just once you figure out what your noble title is going to be or your appellation with the Bay or the L, you would just input it in that paperwork, and then essentially it's an affidavit. So us as a body politic, will seal it, put some witnesses on there. You'll mail it to us. We'll send it back to you sealed. Those will be your originals. And I would recommend you take your nationality paperwork and use it as a study guide. I wouldn't make another move until you study those nationality paperwork. That's your declarations and your proclamations, and make sure you get everything in there, because it's like 15 pages of info, all law, historical situation, and that's your claim in the affidavit form of basically saying who you are in the affidavit form, right? Dealing with your nationality. So that's how I will answer your question. And once you study the book that you got, and then you study your nationality paperwork, you're gonna be in a more confident position, you know. And then if you still got gray areas after that, that's what we're here for. That's what the body's here for. You can, ask questions until you have no more gray areas. You know what I mean? So
Is that, if I'm correct, there's the information where I can directly find that information in the book, right? Is that correct?
as far as what? The
As
paperwork?
far as RP Bay links and how to navigate.
Oh, it's a brother that put it in the chat. It's RB Bay Publications, but you can get with me and I can navigate you through that. It's a brother showing his paperwork right now. I know you're traveling. You probably can't see, but yeah, we can go over that. I'll go over that with you at a later date, tomorrow or something. And and essentially, you'll just need Microsoft Word. You need to have an editing software, and be able to print it out. And you just mail it to us. And first, you need to come up with a title and comprehend what those titles mean. Dealing with the Bay, L, Owl,
Yes, sir.
they and I, etc. So that's pretty much it. Pretty much it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did anybody else have any questions? Comments?
What was the name of that book you was reading from?
Oh, esoteric astrology.
That's on the website?
No, I can email you that. I'll email it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a PDF. All right. If nobody have any other thoughts, I'm gonna go ahead and close out. And I'll see everybody on Friday. Peace and love to all. Hope everybody have a beautiful rest of their night. And Islam.
Islam is novels.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Peace.
Islam Moors.
Is